let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
Okay, well then this is super exciting because we've actually never met before.
No, it's, yeah.
No. So if you want to tell our listeners who you are.
So we were just talking about saying and I'm going to start by saying right after I said I don't say My name is Stacey Snider. I am a family doctor in Stratford. I've been here for 22 years almost, and working at the hospital and at a clinic, and I'm a mom of 3 girls and a stepmom of twin boys, one of who has severe autism and is pretty much nonverbal. And yeah, just hanging out in the garage, which is very cool. As a Tottenham Hotspur fan.
Well, I won't hold that against you, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a couple years.
So are you originally from Stratford?
I grew up in Cambridge, and then went off to university to several different cities along the way, and I'm an only child. So when we eventually came and settled in Stratford, my parents actually sold their place in Cambridge and moved here to be closer to me and the girls.
Okay.
As they were really, when you have a super, super busy job without a lot of support some of the time, I needed my mom to help raise the kids because I would get called out at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, and my first marriage ended when Maya was only 2. And so for years I was on my own with them, and 2 a.m, you can't leave a 3-year-old at home. So my mom moved up, a couple blocks away. I would call her in the middle of the night when somebody was ready to deliver a baby. She'd get in her car, I'd get in my car. We'd wave to each other, passing on the way to the hospital. And she'd, crawl in with one of the kids or fall asleep on the couch. And yeah, she was good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we had talked off mic already. Actually, a long time since I couldn't get this thing going. But so where did you go to school? There was a ton of schooling from what you're saying.
Right, I know. Yeah, just in case anybody's wanting to be a doctor out there, this is the time that I dissuade you. So I went to Guelph and took biomed and neuroscience, and then went to McMaster for medical school and thought I wanted to be a neurologist or a neurosurgeon, but found it kind of a depressing field, to be honest. Then decided on family medicine, so I went to University of Ottawa for residency for a couple of years. And then through the Northern Ontario School of Medicine, I did a fellowship in women's health and family medicine obstetrics. So it was about 11 years.
Oh, is that it? Just 11?
It was quick. It was just like a little jaunt. Yeah, grade 24, and I was done.
Grade 24.
It was just like that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, so when you're going through for your residency, was it just like it always seems to be made out in movies and TV shows where you're there, it seems like 21 hours a day, sleep when you can?
Yeah, it was brutal. Yeah. And so now there's rules about how much you can work, but when I was going through, we could work up to 30 hours without sleep. And so you could start at 6 one morning and work until lunch the next day. And you didn't have to sleep or have food or pee or anything in that time. And the worst of it was when I was at McMaster, so doing med school, and I was on a general surgery rotation at the Hamilton General Hospital. And it was so busy. And as med students, you are the lowest on the totem pole. So anything that comes in through emerge, you get sent down for. You're kind of clearing some really, some people who've had unfortunate problems. And I remember one time having come in at 6, you do your rounds, you're working all day, you're in and out of the OR, doing consults all night in the merge. And I was so tired. I was waiting for Tim Hortons right across the street to open up, and it opened at 6. And I walked across the street, I got my coffee, and I came back, and I didn't think I could make it across. So I sat down on the road, like just in the middle. And I thought, this is it. Like, I'm done. I can't do it. And that was only 24 hours. But yeah, wow. It's crazy. It's tough.
I wonder how many people go through that where they're like, is this worth it? Can I push myself through this any further? Right. Like it's
hard. Yeah. I know of a guy who was on his way home from an ICU rotation as a resident in Ottawa, and he put his car into the Rideau Canal.
Wow.
Not on purpose.
Right.
Like, yeah, just exhausted.
Wow.
So they've changed things a lot. I mean, I went to school before the millennium, right? Oh my God, that's old. So now there's rules. You can't work more than 24 hours, and it's much, much more humane. Yeah.
I can't believe that they actually let them do that back then. Even like, I don't understand other than almost getting free labor, right? Yeah. Like what the benefit is, like they say in school, it's like the first 30 or 40 minutes you're retaining everything.
Yeah.
After that, it's nothing. So you'd think it would almost be the same thing for junior residents. That at a certain point, you're not going to remember the stuff that you've just learned or had to go through, right? So
no. A lot of it's experiential learning. So the more cases you see, the more you know. Book learning's really hard to do for the breadth of knowledge that you need. So the more cases you see, the better you are. And it was still kind of old school when I went through med school and residency. And so the thought was, we went through it, you'll go through it.
Right.
It's changed, which is better. And I mean, it makes you really able to function on very little sleep. There's some good out of it for sure, but
you do get used to it after a while, I guess, right?
You do. You really do. You get used to it. And not all rotations were that bad. And that was only when you were on call. So there was days that you're not on call and you just go to work and you come home. But you see lots of really cool stuff.
I was going to save this question for later, but since you said that, and if you can say anything, any crazy, either something that's happened in a surgery or even just like in the ER, I assume everyone has to take a certain amount of time in the ER.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, we all do. There's been so much crazy over the years. But one of the things that I really remember well was being a med student and having to go see a woman and just kind of clear her medically. She needed to be admitted to the psychiatry floor because she was unwell, kind of locked into her home. And I went, the nurses said, your job, undress her, check her out top to bottom, make sure she's clear, and we'll get her admitted to psychiatry. And when I took her sock off, her toe rolled across the floor, her big toe.
Gangrene?
Yeah. And I was not at all prepared for that at all. That was like tears and gagging and kind of chaos at the time. But it's one of those first moments where you're like, this is real. Like, this is really, God, that's a toe.
I think my first question would be, has this ever happened to you before?
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, how many do you have?
Yeah. I only have one left. All right, so this isn't a big deal.
Right? I know. And there's cool ones. I mean, you see crazy stuff, but one of the coolest things that happened not long ago is there's a woman who I assisted surgery on in a trauma a number of years ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe even a little bit more. So it was fairly early on, and it was a very, very scary surgery. She'd had a bad trauma, and I've never seen her since. But the surgeon who operated on her, I was the surgical assist, so he was operating. I was assisting the surgery and doing everything I could. And I knew that he had kept in touch with her after, because it was such a life and death situation. And not long ago, she found me. So she came, the kids were out front, and she said, "Is your mom here?" And they said, no, she's at the hospital. And she said, "Well, she saved my life 15 years ago, and I want to come and say thank you."
Wow.
And it was maybe 2 months after that she came by, and she said, "Are you Dr. Snider?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "You don't remember me, but," and then told the story. It was a cool thing. Yeah.
So what's your first question? How'd you find out where I live?
Right? It's freaking Stratford.
That's true.
I know. Every once in a while I think, like, God, I got to be more, but it's Stratford. If somebody wants to find you, they're going to find you.
Yeah. Well, it's only
Everybody
10
knows
minutes from one side to the other. It's
right? Yeah.
So it's only so many streets.
It's so true.
You mentioned earlier you thought about going into neuroscience.
Yeah.
At what point do you decide, okay, I want to go into general surgery or a specialty like neuroscience, or I know you still have privileges at the hospital.
Yep.
So I'm asking a bunch of questions here.
No, that's okay.
Not everyone has privileges, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's
so
pretty
what does that
uncommon.
entail?
So when I got into med school, I thought like that was one and done. I was, at the end of being in Guelph, and I thought, wow, med school and that's it. I didn't know that you had to choose family medicine or gen surg or neurology. I didn't really get the concept of having to do so much more afterwards. And as I went through, because I'd done this neuroscience minor, and I just thought the brain was so cool. Have you ever read Oliver Sacks' book? So his book, and I'm going to get the title wrong, but it's something along the lines of The Man Who Mistook His Wife for an Umbrella, something like that. And it's all about how, strokes and tumors can change your perception of the world. And so I was just obsessed with Oliver Sacks and the things he was writing. So I thought neuro would be very cool, but got into medicine, realized med school isn't the end. It's really the kind of the beginning of your medical career. And so started to do a lot of neurology. So I was in Hamilton. I would take the train to sick kids in Toronto, and I worked on the pediatric neurology floor there. And those cases were so sad. The kids were so sick. It was either intractable epilepsy, so just seizure after seizure after seizure, kids with severe cerebral palsy, kids who'd had terrible brain bleeds, and I was just, it was too much. I found it too much, so I thought, okay, I have to do something different. It was also there, on a side note, that I had my most embarrassing physical exam of a patient ever. I'm examining this newborn on pediatric neurology, so I know something's not right. And the kid looks perfect. It's, maybe 6 or 7 hours old, this baby. And my preceptor kept saying, go back and examine it again. And I would examine the baby again. It looked perfect. And finally he said, look at its ear. And it only had one.
Oh.
But when you're just so focused, I would examine the heart, I'd examine the lungs, I was counting the toes and counting the fingers, but I never counted the ears. But I do now.
Yeah.
FYI, you have too. Okay, sorry. So then neurology was too depressing. I thought about doing pediatrics, but I fell in love with delivering babies. And the only way you can do pediatrics and deliver babies is by becoming a family doc who is a true generalist, is a bit of jack of all trades. And
Okay.
I decided that's what I wanted to do. Be kind of an old school family doctor, work in the hospital, assist at surgeries, do palliative care, do home visits, catch the babies, do the whole 9 yards.
Catch the babies.
Yeah. You don't want to drop them. That's worse. Yeah. So then I decided on family medicine. And when I came and worked in Tavistock at first because my husband wanted to go to the Stratford Chef School. So that's why we landed here. And Tavistock was offering a bonus. If you came and worked there for 4 years, they'd pay for your move and they give you a yearly bonus for 4 years. And I was in so bloody much debt. That's what let me have a down payment for a house.
Oh,
So
wow.
I went out there for 4 years and worked there and then came to town and opened my practice here. But that's why so I still do all those things because to me, that's the fun, is kind of being an old school GP where you cut things out in your office and you go to the operating room and you catch the babies and you do all the stuff. But not everybody likes that anymore, right? A lot of people just want to do clinic work. So you go to work in the morning, you work the clinic, you're done. You might be working an after hours clinic in the evening or a Saturday, but you're not affiliated with the hospital. You're not doing other stuff.
Wow. So you love delivering babies.
I do.
I think you know where I'm going with this. Is there any downside to delivering a baby?
Yeah. I mean, so right before I came tonight, I just delivered a baby, a very sweet little baby. But I was saying there's a lot of times where you get covered in amniotic fluid right afterwards. And so this little pumpkin today came with a tsunami of fluid after the body, and it covered me from the waist down, and had to throw my socks out at the hospital and go home squishing in my runners. So I did shower so that I smell good right now. Just in case you want to come smell me, I don't smell like amniotic fluid. As a family doctor who delivers babies, I'm on call all the time. So for the last 21 and a half years, if I'm in Stratford, I'm on call. Yeah. So that's the really, to me, the only downside is that it's not super awesome on your life. I've been called out of every occasion, every, birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, out with friends, about to go out with friends from the Stratford, from the festival. Although, if you leave the festival to go catch a baby, they give you tickets and come back another time.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's all right.
Yeah, they've been awesome.
Well.
Yeah. And then, obstetrics is the great joy and the great sorrow. So 99% awesome and 1% really friggin' sad. So I haven't had many babies stillborn, but when you do, that stays with you for whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've had that experience ourselves. Oh, it's definitely not fun.
No. And it doesn't go away. It just stays with you different over time, I think.
Yeah. Well, they called it stillborn, but they were alive.
They were both living.
Yeah, for 30 minutes.
Wow. How many weeks were they?
I'll get this number wrong. I always do. What's the amount of weeks that you're allowed to give them oxygen? Because we were short 1 week.
Okay.
And the doctor said, and this is before she went into labor.
Yeah.
Well, she had started labor, but they were trying to stop it. And
Yeah.
the doctor said, we need you to hold them in there for another week. Like, a week?
That's a long time.
You're not just talking about a couple hours
No.
here. So, yeah, we didn't make it to the next morning. It happened that night, so.
Yeah. Well, and things have changed so much, even in the last decade. So, 20 weeks is now when it goes from being a miscarriage before 20 weeks to a stillbirth above 20 weeks.
Okay.
And when I was training, babies weren't viable or likely to survive below about 25 weeks. There'd been extremes at 24 weeks, but now there's been 22-weekers who've lived.
Yeah.
I was on a plane to Denver and just happened to be sitting next to a neonatologist from Windsor. And so we spent the whole time talking about, the extreme premature babies and how that's changed over time. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it seems like in the States, I mean, obviously every country's going to have their own different rules or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was necessarily, and we talked about this at the time, giving, I guess in the States, they would have given the babies oxygen and tried to keep them going. But I think Allison knows someone that did do that, and it caused blindness. And I think one of the kids, and they ended up with a whole slew of different health issues,
Right.
because of helping them, I guess.
Yeah.
But they were alive, I guess. So
Yeah. Well, I think you make the best decisions you can at the time, given what you know at the time. And you can always look back and say, I might have done it different, or what if we'd given oxygen? But in the moment, you do the best you can with what you've got.
Yeah.
Right? I think most people come to decisions that way. I think most people are inherently good and come to decisions even if they have to live with really sad outcomes. They come from a place of the best they can.
Yeah, and you're gonna have the mindset, I guess, too, that I forget what I was gonna say there.
That's okay. It's an emotional topic. It's super brave of you to talk about it. That's hard.
Well, it's been 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What were the boys' names?
Logan and Reed.
I did know that. Yeah. Logan and Reed. That's really.
It's Allie's middle name.
Is
Regan.
Reed? Really?
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's really beautiful.
Well, they were. Well, I was telling you this story earlier. I guess I'll say it again. That when Allie was very, very young, still in her crib, she was just in the beginning phases of talking. I guess not the beginning, but just sitting there in her crib and staring at the wall. And I walked in and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And she said, "There's 2 boys in here, and they're being mean to me." Like, that really freaked me out.
100%. Isn't that, yeah, like the things we don't understand about what happens to the soul and the spirit and everything when somebody passes, it's incredible.
It's funny, before that moment, I never would have believed anybody.
Yeah.
I always just think, it's the wind or it's whatever, right? But just the fact that she said there was 2 boys.
Exactly. How specific is that? And 2 little boys are right there in her crib.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
weird.
very interesting. Mm-hmm. The first time I was ever with somebody while they died, he was a man who had end-stage liver failure, and he had clearly lived a rather colored life, and he was on his own at the end. Nobody was there with him. He had one niece who didn't want to come, and I was standing in the room. I'd gotten called in because he was having, respiratory difficulties, and we were giving him some morphine to take the edge off and things, and I was standing holding his hand, and he looked kind of just above me at the door to the hospital room, and he said, "My angels are here." And I said, That's amazing. And he said, "No, it's not. They're frumpy." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "God sent me ugly angels." I was like, "Oh." I said, I'm sure they're nice. Anyway, he held my hand for another 30 seconds and he was gone. And it was just, it was such an interesting experience.
But he just stared.
Yeah, he was, right? Super judgmental about the frumpy. And I remember it because frumpy was such an odd word to use. Yeah, I got frumpy angels. Like, dang. But people see things. When I worked at the nursing homes, we had one nurse there who believed that people couldn't peacefully die until the window was open for their spirit to go. So when somebody was end stage and they were, in the last moments of life and the breathing was starting to take those big pauses, he would come in and he'd open the window and, somebody would pass seconds later. It was very, very interesting.
I believe that when my father passed away, my brother, my mother, and I, we were in the room with him, like, always.
Yeah.
And like he had already slipped into a coma. So that one moment where we all decided, I think my mother said she was going to go downstairs and get something to eat. My brother said, I'm just going to run home and have a quick shower.
Yeah.
I went to the bathroom and came back and he was gone. It was like he waited for all of us to leave the room.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I feel like people either wait to be alone so that it's less traumatic for the people that they're leaving, or they wait until they have permission. So I've seen a number of times where somebody's hanging on and they need one of their loved ones to say, it's okay, I'm going to be okay, we're okay, you can go, and just like that, it happens.
It's insane.
It is. It's really, I think one of the reasons I really love palliative care as well is that there's 2 times you don't want to screw up, and that's birth and death. Because everything else in this life, you get a do-over, but you don't in those 2 moments. So if you can do those well, you can make a really big difference in people's lives.
Yeah. It's a good thing that's not above the door at the
right?
No do-overs.
No do-overs. Yeah, frumpy angels only.
Well.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting, right? I've had times where I have somebody dying on one floor of the hospital and I'm delivering their grandbaby or their great-grandbaby on the floor above. Happens within minutes of each other.
Wow. Just hanging on just long enough to know that the baby came into the world.
Or happens almost simultaneously. I've only had it twice, but twice. It's nice. It's nice to get to be part of families like that. Yeah. So there's families, especially in Tavistock, because that's where I started, where, I take care of the grandparents and then the kids. And then I've delivered every one of the grandkids in the family. And I always joke to them, I'm going to come over on Christmas one day and just let myself in because I feel like I'm part of the family. But it's a freaking big honor to be able to do that, to be able to be that much part of people's family.
It's good that you have like this connection to the people that you're helping out. And if you had chosen a different career path, obviously you're not going to have that same connection, or potentially. What do you think you would have done?
I always say I would have been a party planner, but I think that's just because sometimes medicine's hard and you kind of want to leave and do anything else. Well, and I do. I mean, I always plan stuff at work and do crazy activities and make the staff do ridiculous things. And we make Spotify playlists. The other day I took green painter's tape on the ground and made a little racetrack and then tied strings to 4 people. And you had to move a red Solo cup with an apple on it through the racetrack without it falling off, and the winners got Timmy's cards and stuff. Nice. So yeah, so that's the stuff I really love. That's what we do on our lunch hours. We're not like, learning something smart. We're playing with apples and red Solo cups.
Well, you need to have that downtime that everything's so intense for so long that you need some sort of reprieve, right? Yeah, so
you really do. I don't know. I wasn't one of those people who grew up wanting to be a doctor. I kind of came about it. I loved biology so much so that I loved biology in high school, and I had to have my tonsils out, and I convinced the surgeon to give me my tonsils, and I gave them as a gift to my grade 12 biology teacher. And they were in the biology room when I went back like years later still. My little tonsils sitting there. We don't do that anymore. People can't take their tissue home, but at the time.
That's way better than what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
I talked the doctor into letting me remove them.
Right. I just shoved a knife right back there and went for it.
Just angle that mirror just a little bit.
Yeah, I got it. No, I don't know what I would have done. It all just sort of fell into place. I went to university. I thought of being a pharmacist or doing a master's or doing a PhD, becoming a vet, but I'm not good enough with animals. They scare me a little bit, and so.
Were either one of your parents a doctor?
No, my dad worked at the LCBO his whole life and really loves wine. And my mom did payroll and human resources. Nobody in my family has ever been even somewhat medical. Not a nurse, not a paramedic, nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, there was nobody. So
that's interesting.
yeah, it was, I have no idea where it came from. And then all three of my girls and the boys, my stepsons, nobody wants to do medicine. And I think that's just because I've been on call too much.
I was going to say, if you're saying before that there's always an interruption somewhere in your plans,
Yeah.
that might be a bit of a turnoff for that field, I guess. So.
Yeah. I think some people do it better. There's a lot of people who are just on call once a week or on call even every 5 days. And so, but yeah, there's a couple of us crazies around who still do it this way, who still do it old school.
So what's your guilty pleasure when you're at home then? Like, do you have like a TV series that you love watching, or you're right into movies besides your football on Sundays?
Right, yeah. No, I do love NFL football, not European football. Not that I don't like that, but NFL football on Sundays. Oh, I like reality TV. And that's terrible to say.
No.
It's true. And my husband won't watch it. Even the kids won't watch it. But I go home and I watch The Circle or Love is Blind. And nothing there matters, right? Like, it's complete fluff. And I think that's the whole idea of it. I can't watch anything violent at all. I can't even watch, Star Wars and things like that, because I did, in Ottawa, I did refugee health. And that's the time that everything, then was going on in Afghanistan, and refugees came over who had been tortured. And I took intake assessments. And what I heard there was so awful that I can't watch anything violent. I just don't. And so when I watch TV, if I'm going to watch TV, it has to be something that's complete and utter fluff, because real life has so much drama and pain and sometimes really unfair shit.
Yeah.
That I can't do that in my off time.
Well, you may as well keep it light and silly, right?
Right? I know. It's really fun. It's really good. What do you do in your downtime? Podcasts.
Podcasting, yeah.
Garaging. Do you cottage? No. Okay, we were talking about cottaging earlier, which hopefully somebody British out there will listen to this and tell Ian what cottaging is in England. And hopefully it's not just a friend of mine who's totally made that up. And now I think cottaging is this word that's really not okay.
Yeah, because when I hear it, it just means you're going to the cottage.
Yeah.
But you were saying it refers to something much more sinister.
Yeah, much more George Michael-esque. We bought a cottage 2 years ago. And so that's when this all came up, is when we were going to go up cottaging. So that's the other thing. We have a place just north of Parry Sound. And up there, it's quiet. You can't see the neighbors, at least from up top. You can see people on the dock, but it's just quiet. And that's where I like to go to get away, to canoe or to kayak or to paddleboard. Just quiet.
So I guess for that, you got to actually book the time off to go so you're not on call.
Yep, you got it. So we're heading up Saturday morning for Thanksgiving weekend. And
oh, that'll be fun.
yeah, it should be good with all the kids and my dad. And it's very nice. It's very grateful, very blessed. And then we rent it out in the summer because I just can't get that much time off work. So
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it has to pay for itself somehow.
Right.
So plus, yeah, mortgage rates aren't good.
It's funny. A friend of mine went to, I want to say it was Jamaica, and I'm going to say Liz Taylor was the owner of the house, but I could be wrong with which celebrity it was.
Yeah.
But they do it for a different reason. It's because I guess in Jamaica they have squatters' rights. So if they don't have someone in there, you can just lose your house.
That's crazy.
So they have staff that stays there all the time, and they have people coming in, and just to keep the squatters out. Like
I looked up. It's
insanity.
crazy. Squatters' rights in Ontario are a lot harder because across from our cottage, there's a place we call the Murder Cottage. And it's because it's deserted, and it's been deserted as long as any of the neighbors can figure. It has no hydro. It has no water source to it, but it's got the most beautiful prime piece of flat land and a couple acres behind it. And then it has the cottage. And once a year, somebody comes and cuts the lawn. And then the rest of the year it just sits vacant and everybody wants to buy it. But we call it the murder house because clearly somebody has been murdered there. And that's the only reason it sits empty. So then I looked up squatters' rights because I was like, hey, I've got 5 kids. I can send somebody over to the murder house and just have them stay there for the summer. But yeah, you got to be there for 10 years in Ontario. So you'd have to have you have to squat for 10 years to claim squatters' rights. I know.
How does that even
How does it
come
happen?
about that someone just goes, yeah, I'm not coming back for 10 and a half years. Oh, I lost my house.
I know. Maybe if you are an investor from a foreign country, and I have no idea how you would ever actually claim squatters' rights here. I would need a very committed teenager to stay there for 10 years.
Well, I wonder if you rented it, say, for 9.5 years, just stopped paying and squatted. Would that be considered your 10 years and then all of a sudden you get a house?
That's brilliant. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the only way our kids are ever going to be able to afford a house. They just rent and then stop paying.
Yeah.
And then it's theirs.
I can't believe how much rent has even gone up. Like,
It's
looking at some of the
crazy.
houses, like just the houses around town, $3,500
Seriously?
to rent. Yeah.
Oh. See, I was thinking 2,000 was ridiculous. Because how does anybody pay for it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, those new houses up over by the high school that had that shooting.
yeah,
I think they were around 28 to 3,000 a month.
that's crazy. It's just people who you can kind of choose to have food or shelter, but not both.
Yeah.
And I know, we've seen a huge increase in homelessness. And there's one of my partners is working with the United Way on their, I should know the term, but I don't, but their housing project, which is so needed. We had somebody at our office today, a homeless gentleman a lovely person, but is living kind of in a cardboard box. Yeah.
I wonder how much has actually gone up. Like, I know visually it's gone up because it's almost like they're hoarding them all into like these like locations.
Yeah.
So they're
Like down the back of the Grove and...
Yeah. So like from an optics perspective, it looks like there's more and they're all over the place. And I know at one point they were trucking them in from like Toronto.
bringing people...
Homeless people here.
Who had housing insecurity.
Yeah.
Which is, the solution is to try and get affordable housing and help people have some sense of dignity, help find employment that can hopefully pay for some type of reasonable subsidized housing and provide food. It's this morning in the news was a story that scurvy is back in Canada.
Really?
And scurvy, right, is something that I think about on ships
Pirate
from
ships.
1700 or
Yeah.
prior. But food insecurity has become so awful that people can't afford fruit and vegetables. So people who go to food banks often don't have access to fruit and vegetables depending on the food bank. It's non-perishables, it's boxed food, it's canned food, and it doesn't take that long to develop a vitamin C deficiency. And so it was going over, check the hair follicles to be sure they're not red at the base, and check for bleeding of the gums because, hey, everybody's scurvy's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's entirely due to the cost of living and the cost of groceries, and that's shameful. It's shameful.
Yeah, you're probably not getting a whole lot of vitamin C from fast food places either, right?
Nope, and you're not getting it out of Kraft Dinner or
Yeah.
peanut butter or, well, dang, maybe peanut butter. I should probably know that. I don't know. No, I feel like vitamin C, you got to have a fruit or vegetable in your life.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to or not, I guess you should probably have one.
Yeah. Or you should have a vitamin C tablet. Like
Yeah.
one of those nice orange chewies that makes you feel like you're a kid again.
It's right up there with the Flintstones vitamins.
Right?
I just saw that on Facebook the other day. Like, if you took these, you're old. Like, oh, thanks a lot.
100%. Yeah. You really are. You remember, like, childhood to me is that really strong cherry flavored cough syrup. Do you
Yeah.
remember that stuff I must have been toxic. Ooh, and the other thing that's childhood to me is the smell of glue from grade 2.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we had that real glue with the angled top and you had
Yep.
to open it like a smiley face. So I love that glue was fantastic. You put it on your hands and then you rubbed it off.
Yep.
And so in the operating room, we were talking about this earlier, that when I go to the operating room and we're doing total hip replacements and total knee replacements, when we do hips, or especially when I go in for a fractured hip at night, we use cement, and the cement smells exactly like that glue.
Really?
Exactly like that glue. And I never want to be so excited and be like, I'm a glue sniffer. But it's freaking great. Because it's so cool.
What's that like doing the knee and hip replacements?
They're very, very fun, I must say.
Do they do a lot of it orthoscopically? Like I know, so a friend of mine across the street who I was talking about earlier, he was saying like he's seen some people now do it, and it's not like back in England.
Yeah.
They were just ripping them all the way down and then stitching them all the way back up.
Yeah.
So it's not like that here?
No, for a knee, it's a small incision just above the knee. And for a hip, again, it's a small incision kind of over the, well, a hip is a bigger incision, but over the side. Nothing like that at all. So I do some surgeries kind of in the day but most of the surgical stuff I do is at night. And so it's something that's gone wrong because it's emergency surgery. So your shift starts at 4 p.m. You go to 8 a.m. the next morning and you're called in for whenever the surgeon, whether it's the urologist, the general surgeon, the orthopedic surgeon, the gynecologist, somebody needs help with a surgery. So you see some really fun stuff there. Fun stuff. I mean, I guess that depends on anybody's definition of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you see like really interesting cases. Obstructed bowels that have become really distended, or a ruptured stomach, or different kind of, shattered tibias and fibulas, things like that.
Are those things usually from like sports injuries? Those ones like the shattered tibias? Yeah.
Yeah, or car accidents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever found anything that wasn't supposed to be in there?
I am in my office, people will come in with things that aren't in the body, aren't where they are supposed to be. Most of the time, it's pretty benign. Like it's like kids who've put little pieces of Lego in their ears, or peas or corn, different things like that. But yeah, there's lots of people who put things far more interesting places that, there's stores for that.
Yeah.
Just get something with a handle. You need something to hold on to.
Or at least a string.
Yeah, exactly. just tie it on.
Oh, I guess I'm just my basis for these things happening. You see it so many times in like the medical TV shows. Like, this has to be happening in real life.
Yeah, definitely things do. I am never there for an emergency foreign body in the. At least I haven't been, as of yet. No, I have friends who have seen many a thing, but mine in the office at least are pretty tame. Occasionally I get to take a big piece of glass out of somebody's foot. That's pretty fun. But yeah, in the operating room at night, probably if there's something really exciting, they would call each other, like the general surgeon call another general surgeon in.
Right.
Really complex stuff. They'll call in another surgeon so that they've got extra, like all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a lot more professional than I'm thinking. I'm just thinking like the other doctor walks in and just goes, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. There are moments like that.
Wow.
We had a moment recently that was a very Stratford moment. We were doing a case and all of a sudden it just smelled like shit so bad.
Ooh.
And we were nowhere near the bowels because when you open them, they smell like what's in them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but we were nowhere near there. We were near a hip and all of a sudden it was just everywhere. And we're thinking, God, is it infected? What's going on? But the sewage treatment plant was doing work and it was blowing into the OR at the hospital because it's right. Well, you know how close the hospital is to the sewage. Yeah, no, I was just thank you, Stratford. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
I wouldn't have thought something like that would have gotten in there, but what a way to mess with your mind. Like,
yeah. Well, the air exchange is happening so much, right? So fresh air is always coming in and everything's being circulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just send them a little note saying, "Thanks a lot."
Yeah. Could you do it on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all right. So you don't have any other hobbies then? You don't play any musical instruments or ever thought about it?
Karaoke. I played the trombone in high school. That was a very cool thing. And I never kept playing the trombone because that's just not a sexy instrument no matter what you do. So no, I like to run. I like to bike. For a while, we did a bunch of triathlons. I love trivia. I'm addicted to a couple trivia podcasts. And then we do the job site trivia. And then Birch and Wynn has trivia on Thursdays, which we haven't gone to yet. But trivia is probably one of my favorite things.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I like those, but I only like the movie trivias.
Yeah?
I'm no good at anything else.
Are you a movie buff?
I used to be. I feel like I'm really slipping, but everyone at work seems to think that I'm still the movie guy. So anytime there's a question, they usually come to me.
That's so good.
Oh.
The only thing that I'm really good at is theme songs from 80s TV shows.
We do that.
I feel like I could dominate that.
We play that all the time. YouTube has these things
Really?
all the time, and you put on, and it gives you like 30 seconds, and I'm usually
Boom.
get them right away. But then as soon as it goes into like the Disney ones, and they're looking for the titles, I'm like, I don't know. I know the movie. I just don't know the name of the song.
Right?
But Allie gets them right away.
So you're like a good pair. So you get MacGyver and The Love Boat and Fantasy Island and all those. And she's got Pocahontas for you.
Yeah. Speaking of Love Boat, have you seen that new show?
Oh my God.
Dr. Odyssey?
No, have you? I saw a commercial for it.
I watched the first 2 episodes. It was good.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It looks so incredibly cheesy. But it's the one where it's the doctor on the cruise ship and he has to save people. That's it?
Yeah, because they're stuck like 3 or 4 miles out at sea. So they said, like, when we're out there, this is all you. So there's been a couple times just in the first 2 episodes where they had to do like emergency surgery, but they've got like a full like medical bay in there. So
right.
And like he brought Joshua Jackson, he plays the doctor.
It's Percy?
Yeah,
that's so awesome.
My brother used to always call him Pasty.
Oh, it's Pacey, isn't it? Not Percy. It was
that's
Pacey.
What it's Pacey. Yeah.
Oh, I called him Percy, but it's Pacey. It's totally Pacey. You had to be Pacey or Dawson, one or the other, right?
Actually, I got Allie to watch Varsity Blues, which had Dawson in it, so she actually really liked it.
Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah. So, anyways, the show is it's it's cheesy, but it's also cheesy because the cruise itself every week has a different theme. So, like in the first week, it was very fancy, very high class, and then the second week was singles week.
Really?
Yeah, it had actually Shania Twain was on.
Really?
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Oh.
So it is very Love Boat-esque, right? Where there's something different every week, and
this one's definitely more medical driven than so.
Well, and there is, I think all the medical TV shows have a basis in reality. There's just, in my opinion, a lot less sex because everybody's friggin' tired and nobody has time for that, and there's like work to do.
Now you're talking about Grey's Anatomy, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's exactly it. I had somebody one time who said they wanted to become a doctor because they just wanted all the call room action. I'm like, trust me, that's not what's happening. If you ever see the call room, you're asleep, and you're just grateful for it. And then things just don't happen that fast. But all this stuff happens. Like it legit happens. It just happens at a Canadian medical system pace, which is
it's much slower.
Yeah, it takes 2 years for a 60-minute episode.
I love the fact that Stratford General Hospital is the same logo as Seattle Grace Hospital in the beginning, right? Because it has the SGH on their lab coats.
I have never even realized that.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
I liked Grey's Anatomy in the beginning.
Yep.
And after Derek died, I was like, okay, this has gone too far. But House was a show that I loved.
Isn't that great? I loved House. And I learned some things from House because they had the real rare of the rare on House.
They did, but they had to, I want to say there's 18 doctors were on the writing staff.
Yeah.
And they were just researching like actual case files. So almost everything, I'm sure they Hollywooded it up a little, but like those were all actual cases.
Oh, yeah. And it was like the medicine on House was really good. Whereas the medicine, I was the same. I haven't watched it since Derek died, Grey's Anatomy. But House I loved as well. And you literally learn stuff. Yeah. I remember I have had one patient with porphyria that I learned about on House. And I was like, dang, I think you have porphyria. And they did. I was so excited.
So that's when you should have opened up the diagnostic section of the Stratford General. And you could run that.
Right? Yeah.
Take the name House.
I feel I could have hyphenated it. Snider House.
Snider House.
Yeah.
Sounds more like a Jim Belushi skit.
Yeah, it does. My daughters have a different last name than me. And I thought about hyphenating my last name, but it sounds like a German sneeze because I would have been a Schneider Friesen. And I thought that was like a Gesundheit or something. I was like, dang, that's not okay.
Here comes Dr. Kleenex.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think they like, for the most part, having a different name than me because they get to stay more anonymous. Till now, till I announce it on a podcast. Yeah. But again, it's Stratford.
Hey, is your mom Dr. Snider? Nope.
Yeah, I know. I had a great moment where Maya was like, Mom, sometimes I wish I had your last name so that people would know I was your daughter. And I was like, oh, I know. It was like a teenage mom girl win. It was so nice. You got to hold on to those moments the rest of the time when they don't like you.
Sorry, it wasn't a turnaround. Can I have $100?
Yeah, I'd like these Lulu pants. There's something at Aritzia.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice.
And you're right. Take the wins when you can get them.
Yep, 100%.
Because they're far and few between. And I think we're at that point right now where they're at that age where they want a little less of us. But I think it's right around the 20s where it starts to come back again, though.
I think so, too. We only have one left at home. Jack, our autistic one, is with us every other weekend, but he's with his mom because he goes to a community living program in Milton. So he's with us every other weekend, but then we only have one at home full time, and it's really quiet. But there's one who's about to finish 4th year university with no plans for the future, so I'm pretty sure next year she'll be back home.
Perfect.
Right? I know. So it's not really going to be empty nest syndrome. Yeah. It's just going to be a revolving door syndrome for a long time.
Yeah, that's not bad, though.
No.
And the advantage of having the 3 girls is the girls always come home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's nice. Whereas if you had 3 boys, they would just been at the girls' houses everywhere.
Right. I always think that too. And then I think maybe I can't say that, but it's true, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the girls tend to live closer to where their parents live as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look at me. I met Allison in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And we got married. We lived there, and then we ended up moving here.
So are you a Senators fan?
I am.
Yeah. Did you hear about the new stadium? Like they're trying to build a new stadium, right? Down at Lansdowne?
No, at the Laurentian Flats.
Where are the Laurentian Flats?
Couldn't tell you exactly where it is, but
yeah.
I thought those were a protected area, but I guess they're opening it up for them.
Laurentian Flats. I think of that like near the airport area, but maybe I'm wrong.
Let's look it up.
Good old Google. Just there when you need her.
Let's see.
Do you have your Siri set as a woman or a man on your phone?
I don't know. How do I know?
What happens when you say, "Hey Siri"?
Hey Siri.
Or when your phone talks to you, is it a woman's voice?
Never heard my phone talk to me.
Do you ever voice dictate?
No.
Like your texts? This is because I dictate all the time.
Oh.
I dictate all my texts, and you know how it reads it back to you?
No.
No.
I use my watch for that.
Interesting. And it never talks to you.
No.
I want you to set up a British accent one. Mm-hmm. Oh, she's a girl.
Oh.
There you go.
Where are the Laurentian Flats in Ottawa? She left.
Yeah. I loved Ottawa. That's a great city.
Yeah.
It was a great place. I mean, it was cold as anything and lots of snow.
Yeah, it's because it sits a little lower, right? That's also what makes the weather really hard to predict. So there was a guy, like the main weather guy in Ottawa back when I was younger, it was J.J. Clark. Okay. And there's a massive billboard downtown with him, like his hands up in the air. And the caption just said, "It's not my fault."
I feel like being a weather person is the only job where you could get it wrong every single day, your whole career.
Exactly.
You're still employed, right? Like, if you don't know what you want to do, be a meteorologist. Yeah. It's like super offensive to every meteorologist out there. But yeah, I mean, they can get it wrong. It can be like no chance of rain and you look outside and it's pouring and everybody's like, you just let it go.
Oh, really? You just have to use a 99-cent or free app and just say it over the air?
Yep.
I can do that.
Yep, exactly. It's pretty chill. Huh? You could come up with, take some pictures of the weather.
Stand in front of the green screen and go, "Look what's going on over here. That doesn't look good, so stay away from over there."
Yeah.
Try and stay on this side of the map.
God, we're lucky where we are, though, right? No, that's the awful hurricane down south. And yeah, we're pretty lucky here.
Yeah,
Occasional tornado.
We just get shitty cold weather.
Yeah.
And a ton of snow.
Yeah.
Although we didn't get that last year, but I hear this year's supposed to be really bad.
Is it? Do you like snow?
I like it up until Christmas, and then I want it gone.
Yes, right?
So,
I feel like December.
1 month.
1 month.
Yeah.
Fall's nice.
Fall's my favorite time of the year. Well, early to mid fall is my favorite time of the year because it's warm enough during the day to wear shorts.
Yeah.
But then at night you can wear jeans and a sweater.
Yeah.
And you can go and sit by the fire or whatever, right? So, yeah.
It's perfect. It's like, the ultimate Canadian when you can be in sandals, shorts, but your seat warmers are on and you maybe have a toque on.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a little bit of everything.
And a hoodie.
Yes.
Actually,
right?
So I was downtown today and I was in shorts and a t-shirt. I was fine. I saw people walking around with Canada Goose. I don't know. How do you say that? It is a Canada Goose jacket.
It is.
But when you see multiple people wearing the jackets, are they Canada Geese jackets?
That's such a great question.
Yeah. That's a bunch of Canada Gooses.
That's hard. I think you're right. I think they're Canada Geese when they're all together in their jackets.
Like there was one couple, he was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and she was wearing, it was like a 3/4 length jacket. Like maybe
parka.
it was a thinner one, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was parka style, but maybe it was thinner, but still, it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
17 degrees out. It's not that cold.
Right? Do you ever find that when you go to Florida and it's a little bit chilly and you're thinking like this is bathing suit weather and people who are Floridians there seriously dressed for snow and it's 19 degrees.
Well, it's funny. So when we were in Belgium, they were saying about how like it was like the worst winter that they had. It was so cold and it was like 5 degrees. And I was joking with somebody today actually, and I was saying like I could have worn like a t-shirt or a sweater and shorts, and I was like, probably not because we were just coming. We were going into our winter. Oh, yeah. So, you know what I mean?
So you're not tough yet.
Yeah.
Right? But coming out of winter, 5 degrees is shorts for sure.
Everyone's wearing shorts.
I know.
It's snow everywhere. And
And you're just so happy.
Yeah.
People are like practically dancing in the streets. That is the really good thing, right, about spring. Because I don't super love spring at that muddy part where it's the early. But there is that joy when you get the sun is out and you're not in a parka for the first time.
And you know summer's right around the corner.
Yeah. That's such a good feeling. And then it just happens like one day to the next. All of a sudden the trees are all covered in leaves and it's hot as balls. And
I used to get made fun of. So like if my front yard still has snow in there, I'm out there with a shovel throwing it all over the road. Just, I want this shit gone. I don't want to hear it anymore.
I do
the
same.
Like, it's all going to melt the same speed. Go, no, my lawn is clear and you still have 2 feet. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me it's all going to melt the same.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
No.
Like if your front lawn faces west, or you're like, you're screwed because it's not as warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It matters. It matters what direction you face.
And it could just be a mentality thing too, that you just want, because you want spring there, you want snow gone. You're tired. You've just gone through 3 to 4 months with snow.
Yeah.
You just want it out of your life.
Is
that too much to ask for?
Exactly. And here we are, like October, and we know it's coming. Do you do anything to get ready for it? Do you do anything like knowing the snow and winter's coming?
Yeah,
anything
cry.
Fun? That's so great. I like that. Crying's good.
That's why I'm still wearing shorts. I'm hanging on right to the last minute.
Yeah.
I have to wear pants for work, but as soon as I get home, the shorts go on.
Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes good sense. I just try and hold on to any time out. I sit out and go out in the back deck and you follow as the sun is going over the house. You just follow the last little bits and try and soak it up as much as possible.
It's funny, I just did that on Saturday night. We have a fire table on our deck, and I was the only one that was going out. Allison may have come out for a little bit, but not long. Our cushions were wet because it had been raining.
Yep.
So I had like 3 or 4 towels sitting on top of the cushion. And at one point I'm like, oh, man, my pants are still getting wet. So I ended up having to go and get another bunch of towels. And I was out there for a couple of hours though.
And you just lived with wet pants.
Yeah. It wasn't warm.
No.
Like I was getting closer and closer to that table.
Yep.
Like my back is freezing. Like I'm not going in.
Nope.
Hanging on to the end. I think I made it to like 12:30.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm done.
That's it's a pretty good commitment though that you made it that long. What,
Yeah.
I don't even know what you do for work.
I work for Toyota.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I did know that. Either Allison or Ali has told me that over time. I
Yeah.
should work for Toyota.
If you ask anybody at work what I do, they just say I don't do anything.
Yeah. Is it the Woodstock one or the Cambridge one?
I was in Cambridge, now I'm in Woodstock.
Okay. That's a big place.
Yeah. The Woodstock one's 1.8 million square feet.
Jeez. That's huge.
Yeah.
And a lot. How many people are there? Like tons?
I don't know how many are in the one building, but between Cambridge and Woodstock, it's I want to say it's 9,100 now.
That's huge.
Somewhere around 9,000 anyway. So.
I have heard it's a very long walk from your parking lot to get into work.
Yeah, so I work just inside the front door, so
That's
I'm
nice.
lucky. Anyone that works in like welder paint, they have
Yeah.
another like 5 to 10 minute walk. And if you're in paint, you have to go to the back, and then you have to go through. Oh, you have to get changed into your. It's like a nylon jumpsuit.
Okay.
It zips all the way up. You have to wear everything, and then you go through these. It's like a sealed door, and it blows air all through everything, and then you have to come out the other side. So it's just to keep the contaminants out of the paint.
Yeah, makes sense.
So like even wearing like the wrong deodorant can screw up
Really?
the paint. Yeah. So they say. I don't know. I've never worked
Yeah.
there, so
You wear the right deodorant.
yeah.
That's really good. Have you ever thought about the worst job you ever had? That reminded me, not that there's anything bad about working at
No.
in paint or anything, but I worked at the Schneider's sorting facility in Winnipeg right after I finished my undergrad. Because I followed my boyfriend at the time out to Winnipeg. I thought maybe I could be a farm wife before I did this. And I worked sorting pig's feet. So I had to pick the bruised pig's feet from the not bruised pig's feet and throw them into different bins. And it was freezing cold and it was gross. And I wasn't a fan.
Can't think of what my. Well, the one that comes off the top of my head would be. I wasn't there long. It was only 3 weeks, maybe. But we were doing demolition on the balconies up the side of buildings.
God.
So I had to go inside this cage. It was maybe half the. Well, I can't see the size of the carpet here, but maybe it was like maybe 5 feet by 6 or 7 feet was the size of this thing, and it was. I had a button, and it would go up the side, but there was a rope that was attached to the bottom of it, so that as I was going up, there's a guy at the bottom would pull out on the rope, make sure I didn't catch the balcony.
No.
So I'd have to go all the way up, say, to like the 18th, 19th floor, and the guy that's doing the demolition on the balcony would hand me buckets of concrete, and I'd have to put them in this cage with me, and I'd give him all the empty ones. So as I'm coming down, this is where the real importance of that guy with the rope paying attention comes in.
Because all of a sudden you're a lot heavier with all that
Yeah.
concrete in there.
Well, and now you're coming down onto the balconies, whereas before you're kind of going up and just scraping.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know how many times you'd be coming down and you would catch it and tip it, right?
Oh God.
So,
That'd be terrifying.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not a fun job at all. See, that's not one that you would think we would just tell our kids they can do.
No.
I think that would be where I'd pull a helicopter mom and be like, no, you're not going to go up and hang out with concrete and some guy
Yeah.
just
Well,
having your life in his hands with a rope.
and I found out afterwards, so it was my buddy's father-in-law that was one of the head guys or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he got me the job, and he was like, after I had left, I was sick for a day, and the foreman said that I just didn't show up to work. I was like, that's not true. I called in or whatever. So my buddy's father-in-law went to the office and said, yeah, he called in. So he went and made the guy give me my job back and said, I appreciate what you did, but I'm not going to work for someone that just fired me and you're making him take me back. That's not going to go well, but I appreciate it or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was. Sometimes he had told me that if I had seen what I was actually, like my harness that I was wearing, what it was actually attached to up top, because you probably wouldn't want to go back up there anyways.
Wow.
It was a crumbling wall, and they had just drilled a hole through it and attached the safety. I guess they didn't have that great of a safety reputation, but I didn't know that. I was only 18.
How scary is that, right?
Yeah.
That, you just, workplace safety, thankfully, has also come a long way since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's terrifying stuff. We did some
Sorry,
rock climbing.
You say place safety or
Workplace safety.
Oh, okay.
Workplace, yeah.
Sorry,
like workplace safety, I think, is a lot better than it used to be when.
Yeah.
Because, at least I hope so.
Yeah. I think our place is really safe, but
Yeah.
depending on who you talk to, they think everything's the end of the world. So
Yeah.
So.
Every place I feel like has its good and its bad. Sometimes it's just the way you look at it.
That's exactly what it is. It's just the way that you have to look at it,
Right.
Because it's part of your responsibility too.
100%.
Oh,
Yeah. That's everything in life.
yeah.
Right? You can't change anything that anybody else does, and you can't a lot of times change things around you, but you can change the way you look at it. You can control what your action's going to be or your reaction.
100%.
Yeah.
Just it's called living. It's life.
Now we're becoming sage and wise as we sit here. This is when the intelligent part of the podcast starts. I'm sorry, I'm not. Yeah, we've known each other for a full hour now, so I can start making fun.
Yeah. We're now philosophers.
Exactly. Yeah, there'll be something good. I was learning from a podcast that I was listening to about how you can help a difficult conversation you have with somebody by telling them the way you want them to respond. And I was thinking that was kind of crazy and I couldn't really understand.
Yeah.
But we often have like tough conversations, employees, patients, whoever. So if I just pick one of my kids and I have to, tell her that, whatever, I didn't like the way she went out, and instead of just saying, either sandwiching it like people used to, where you try and give them some good before the negative feedback and then you give them some good, but really people are anxious because you're like, well, you did a really good job and I know you're really responsible, and so everybody's waiting, right? Yeah. And you only ever hear what's after the but, because that's all that really matters. This was like, instead of that, just say it straight on and tell them the way you want them to react. So I have something tough to talk about, but I know you're mature enough to handle it. I didn't like the way you stole beer from the fridge, whatever, right? And then the person on the other end is like, damn, I am mature enough to handle this. So if you just like drop that in there, whatever you want it to be, however you want the person to respond, you give them the suggestion and they rise to the occasion. And so, yeah, I thought it was pretty profound. I've been, thinking that since.
It's almost like a small manipulation.
Right? It really kind of is. I know you're responsible, so I know you're going to understand that I don't want you to take beer from the fridge, whatever. Yeah, you give them the attribute you want them to have. Again, we are becoming wise an hour in.
Oh, that's usually how it takes. I think it's the beer.
It's the beer. And so what other podcasts do you listen to beyond your own?
I only really listen to two now. I used to listen to a couple, but I'm Smartless. Do you ever listen to that one?
I have, yeah.
Oh.
That's good stuff.
That was actually where I got the question, if you weren't going to be a doctor.
Right.
Right? So, and then is there any sort of weird things that have happened to you in the OR or ER? Yeah. So those are all questions that Sean Hayes usually asks, you know. Like, it's usually about live theater.
Right.
Like, have you had any really crazy theater stories? Right?
Yeah.
So that, and I listen to Rogan. But his are, like, I got to skip through 20 before I get to one that I want to listen to.
It's interesting.
But the funny thing is that I've kind of, I don't want to say modeled, but so many people said, pick something and just stick with it.
Right.
And I would rather just, like, have conversations with people. So it could be all walks of life or whatever, right? And that's kind of what Rogan's is. He's got doctors, he's got Air Force pilots, he's got scientists. He's all over the map, right? So
I've never actually listened to his podcast before.
No?
No.
You should listen to one with Commander Jonathan Fravor.
Okay.
If you like aliens.
I think it's very fascinating.
Do you believe in aliens? Let me ask you that.
I believe that there is life beyond Earth, for sure. I feel like you just can't imagine that we're the only things that have progressed from little cellular organisms or
Agreed.
Whatever your belief system is. We can't be it. And when we're up at the cottage, we take sleeping bags down to the dock and we lay and we just watch the stars because there's no light pollution at all and guaranteed to see some shooting stars. But you can see, it feels like it's more in 3D out there. And you see the Milky Way and sometimes you can see the Northern Lights, but you see that kind of depth to the universe. And that's, there's got to be something. There's got to be something out there. What do you think?
Oh, I 100% agree. I believe they're here.
it's interesting. I feel like there's been a lot of things that have happened over the years that, could lead people to that kind of conclusion.
If you listen to the Commander Fravor one, so he was an active duty Air Force pilot on the West Coast.
Yep.
And this was 2017, I'm going to say. Could be wrong on that date, but he was down by like San Diego area, and him and another pilot in another plane, his wingman, they picked up something, or they saw something down by the water. So I guess they went down to take a look, and it looked like a very large Tic Tac is the best that they could describe it.
Yep.
And it was just hovering above the water. And all of a sudden, it lifted off at a really fast pace, and then they followed, and they said that the speed that it was traveling at, and the fact that it could go forward and go straight up without having to, like, no curve, no arc, no nothing, right?
Yeah.
And I guess they theorized that whatever's on the inside, that's its own propulsion system, it's removing gravity, and that's how it's able to manipulate. Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah. But it was nothing man-made, clearly.
No, and the Navy apparently is, for the last 10, 15 years, has been seeing these things all over both coasts. So there was another Air Force pilot 2 or 3 years earlier, had the exact same experience on the East Coast.
Interesting.
But their radar is now picking these things up all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills.
Right. And what, I don't follow that very closely, but I feel like just a couple of years ago, they opened some sealed documents about all sorts of different sightings over time. And it kind of goes back to, not that it's paranormal, but just spirit. And there's an awful lot out there that we don't understand, right? But even if you think, like when we're talking about death or spirits, we're energy. And when we die, that energy has to go somewhere. It cannot cease to exist. So what does it go out the window? Does it come back? Is it hanging out with us? Where is that energy?
Or does it just go back into the ground?
Right? Is it
Interesting.
Yeah. It's somewhere.
Yeah.
It can't. Yeah, physics says it can't cease to exist, so it has to be somewhere.
You know what's something interesting? I just heard, Terrence Howard, the actor?
Oh, yep.
So he's apparently super, super smart, but he's got no formal training or whatever. And I guess some of these super smart guys or whatever, I've said that, some of them kind of shun him. And I guess there's a couple of guys just said, he's one of us. He just doesn't have the diploma, right?
Right.
But I guess he's got a theory that planets are coming out of the sun. Which I'm going to butcher this right to.
Yeah.
But basically, like, the solar system gets bigger over eons and eons. And that's why they think, like, Mars did support life at one point, because it was where Earth is. And
Right,
now
and
it's
shifted.
all shifting.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, how can we prove or disprove things like that for a long, I don't know how you'd ever prove or disprove something like that, because eventually we'd move off into an inhospitable part of the solar system, and that would be it for humans.
So maybe there was, like, nonstop civilizations on all these different planets, and just it's been happening forever, and we're just going through a cycle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of insane.
It is. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Right? We might not sleep tonight.
That's why we need another beer.
Yeah, exactly. It's nightmare stuff.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I'm glad you were able to come out. I know last time it didn't work out for us, but
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't remember. Usually it's because I got called into something.
it was.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It was, you had just gotten off. Actually, it was like a crazy long thing,
yeah.
and we had it set for early Sunday morning or something. I was like,
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
big deal.
sometimes if I've been in the OR all night, I'm not very
No.
functional.
Two shoes full of amniotic fluid.
right? Oh, they are cute though. And it's
What, the
such
shoes?
No, the babies. The babies are cute. God, it's amazing to get to be part of that, right? To
Yeah.
get to be part of, like, the very start. Well, no, I'm not there for the very start.
I was gonna say, that's a
I'm
little
there
weird.
I'm there for when they come out. But I have all these kids, and now, like, friends of my kids and all these kids that I know. And I always think, whenever I see them, I'm like, I touched your head first. And I say that to them every once in a while. I don't think that they think it's funny, but I find it very amusing.
You just walk up behind them and just hold the back of their head exactly like they did. Like, so I did this 18 years ago.
Does that feel comforting? If I yell push, does it sound like something?
Just walk up. Do you remember me?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's fun to just sit and chat.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to have you back again and do it all over again.
Yeah. Once we sort out all the British lingo.
Right. Well, we'll talk to the experts. I'm sure. I'm sure we'll hear something.
Yeah.
But is it cottaging?
Cottaging.
Cottaging. And you said there's a couple other terms, right?
There is. Yeah, I'll have to make a list.
All right.
And that's what we could do. We could do trivia on British terms.
Oh,
and combine a whole bunch of loves there.
And then see if they know where these terms are from, because we'll look them up.
Right? Yeah, they need to know the origins.
Yeah.
It's like your archery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks to you. Thank you.
We'll talk to everybody next time.